5.1 Ordinary Kinloch Representative Group Meeting on the 22nd of March. Page 29. Is that March? Yeah, so it's just confirming the minutes. I don't know why it's gone in the other one. Yeah, 2nd of March. Okay, happy to move that, Councillor Johns. Seconded by Councillor Harvey. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Right, 5.2 Tender contract for Omori Tipuki Road, Pihanga Road intersection. We've heard from Mr. Haddock earlier, and we've got Mr. Lewis. Good afternoon, Mr. Lewis.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Councillors. Have a report here for the Omori Tipuki Road intersection improvement. It's a tender. There are a couple of options there. I'm not going to read through the report. I'll take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any questions of Mr. Lewis? Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Dennis, I was just interested, Mr. Lewis, I was just interested in the fact that originally there was to be NZTA funding for the project, but now they've declined it. I was just wondering what happened with that.
What happened with that? Throughout this intersection was part of our minor improvements program, and that requires approval by NZTA. When we submitted it for approval, they declined to approve it.
And just one other question, probably more for Mr. Manhenant, is that at the last meeting he mentioned there was some forecast work being done on where we might end up at the end of the financial year, considering some of the unbudgeted expenditure we'd already spent. And I'm just wondering, does he have comfort that this unbudgeted amount of 193k would fall in line with that?
Through the Chair, yes, we will be able to fund it in the current financial year.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Lewis? Councillor Body.
There's two, Mr. Lewis. The first one is in the original budget. Before we go into the unbudgeted amount, what can be done under what we already budgeted for to improve the situation there?
You could improve the situation by putting in a little bit more signage. If you want to treat the intersection, that original budget was on the basis of creating a T intersection, which is what this tender is for. The difference between the two prices apart from pricing received from the contractor is that the scope changed slightly. Is when we did some detailed investigation into the pavement, found that the pavement needed a new pavement in that area. So that's why it's led to the increase in the scope of the work.
So it could be made better by the 275,000 without the unbudgeted?
That you could make it better by putting some signage there. So it would help to improve it, but ultimately it would be the T intersection.
Okay. Then just look at page 141 Western Bay speed limits, which is later in the agenda. I noticed some of those roads, particularly Mori Pukawa, that we're going to have their speed limits reduced by signage. Would that help?
That would help. We did some speed counts there. The latest were done in January 2016, where the average speed in that vicinity was around 52, 53 kilometres an hour.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Stewart.
I'd just like to say I think that should actually be done at this intersection. I use this intersection quite a lot. It isn't an easy intersection to use. In the winter time it's not so bad because there isn't so much traffic, but you still have to stick your noses out further than you'd like to when you're driving to see where you're going. And in the summertime the volume of traffic is immense, and also the development that's going on out over there is going to continue to go. So if we don't do it now, we will have to do it. Even NZTA say that they'll look at it again in the future, but it won't be this price then, it will be a lot more. And we haven't had an accident there, but do we have to wait for one? I do think that we need to get on with this.
Thanks, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Hickling.
Dennis, did the Transport Agency give any reason why They wouldn't fund this, part fund this intersection.
Largely based on the speed environment of the road and the crash history.
Councillor Kingi.
Well, thank you, Worship. Just speaking in support of the recommendation there, I think the challenge here for us is really this has been a live matter before this council for quite some time. This community doesn't typically ask for a lot. I don't think it's an unreasonable request in terms of what's before us. So on that basis, I'm happy to move that option 1 and option 2. Oh, sorry, option one, number 1, number 2. Yeah, cancelled it out.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Stewart. Yeah, so I would like to speak in support of that. I believe that the community has wanted this for a long time. Seems to be quite a significant timeline that seemed to have a bit of turn and fro, and as Mr. Haddock outlined earlier. So yeah, I would certainly like to support it. Councillor Mr. Lewis?
Just one thing to add, Your Worship. Should you decide to proceed with it, then I've spoken to the contractor and he would recommend that we don't do the work immediately. We're coming into winter. He can't guarantee that the seal would hold if it was done during the winter time, and would recommend doing it about August, September or thereabouts when the warmer weather is.
Mr. Chairman, to make my unbudgeted, unbudgeted more palatable, if that's the case, this funding could be used from the 18-19 year rather than being unbudgeted from this year. That'd be correct. It's the same, but what I'm getting at would be budgeted in for next year, not unbudgeted. If it doesn't happen until our next financial year, which starts 1st July.
So, in some ways, next year's worse than this year because you're in a worse situation potentially, given where we're going to be ended up in the long-term plan. The only way that you would make that work is that your minor improvement budgets for both years you'd be using to fund this one project. That's fine, but it means that obviously for those 2 years you do no other minor improvement. So, so there's a big long list that you have, which you do on an annual basis, from side barrier arms to all sorts of different things, Mr. Lewis. And that would be 2 years worth of that's put into this intersection. If that's your desire, that's fine, but it does mean that we wouldn't be doing those other works for that 2 year period.
Okay. Councillor Park?
I'd just like to speak on totally support the Mayor in backing this project. I went to the Road Safety Summit in Wellington recently, and the government are changing their priorities around safety being number 1, and also when they look at future funding, and I suppose we have to wait post-budget, they're going to be looking at including footpath construction when it comes to improvements to local regional roads. So I think we need to get on and do this, and maybe we'll have some cost efficiencies in the next financial year depending on what the government tell us we need to do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Dennis, as far as when the project to be started, we'll take the contractor's guidance on that, but I think it's pretty clear we want it done as soon as possible. Yep. People have been waiting too long, so it just needs to be done. And I see they're sealing, all sorts of things at the moment, so I don't know quite where they come from and that, but I'm not an engineer, so you are. Councillor Kingi.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say, if we do move along those lines, and again, I ain't a rating person either, I think it's just really important that we get the communications with that community nailed. Part of the whole reason we're here is because whatever's happened in the past has got us here, so if we're going to go down that line, we make a commitment, but we communicate it in such a way and, make sure that they understand it.
Probably it'll be a little bit stronger than Mr. Lewis in terms of it's definitely our recommendation that work doesn't happen until it warms up. It will fail. Take what the Mayor says into account, but that sealing, you'll notice, is finished now around the country. That's why it was really bad a couple of weeks ago. So, quite frankly, if you do it now, it will fail and it will be a waste of money. So that's why we will be waiting until it warms up, but you're right, the communication to the community is really important around that.
Okay. Very good. Okay, thanks, Mr. Lewis. It's been moved by Councillor Kingy, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. So that is number 1, of course, of the concern. Right, 5.3. Request for extension of effluent disposal farm harvesting contract. Page 39. Kevin.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mayor and Councillors. Yep, so I'm presenting this report. It's requesting the extension of the harvesting contract by 1 year at a cost of 817,000, just over. That's the tendered price that the contract was tendered 2 years ago. The contractor is willing to carry on with the same price, and so we're requesting that Council approve that extension of 1 year at that cost.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Any questions of Kevin? So they're an existing supplier, Pritchard.
Yeah, Pritchard's have been the incumbent for several years now. They've had, I think this is their 3rd tendered period, so about 12 years they've been doing it for, and do a good job.
Okay, cool. Moved by Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Thank you, Kevin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried.
Thank you.
5.4 is Jolly Outfitters Limited Sublease. Nathan. Good afternoon, Mr. Murray.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. So Chris Jolly Boats has a lease with Council for land down at the marina. A small portion of that is reserve land, most of it isn't, which is why we're at Council instead of Fred. They have asked us to approve a sublease to Jolly Outfitters Limited, which is other members of the family, and we've recommended that Council approves that sublease request.
Cool. Thanks, Nathan. Any queries? Nathan?
Oh no, Your Worship, I'm happy to move this item. I think it's purely mechanical, being that Simon and Katie have taken over from his parents.
Cool. Okay. Been moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Thank you, Nathan. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 5.5, Reserve Exchange. Final decision, 1/31 Irwin Place in Kinloch. Ella.
Afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. So this item is coming to you today to make a final decision as administering body of Marina Terrace Recreation Reserve in Kinloch to exchange 36 square metres of the reserve for the same amount of area of land, of private land next door at 1/31 Irwin Place. And it's also coming to you today to make a decision under your delegated powers from the Minister of Conservation to authorise the exchange. So following the decision of Fred to agree in principle to the exchange, we've consulted with the community following the Reserves Act requirements and have not received any objections or submissions. The recommendation before you today is to agree to authorise the exchange in final. We've had a valuation done of the 2 parcels, and the valuer has concluded that there's no difference in value of the exchange.
Okay, thanks very much, Ella. Any questions of Ella regarding this? It's been approved, well, it's been considered by the Fred Committee. The recommendation is there, so anyway, moved by Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thanks, Ella. 5.6, you're on the go again.
Great. So following the recent changes to our senior leadership and the inclusion of new members Dylan Tahu, Lisa Nunn and Tina Jakes, our powers of attorney need updating, and so the recommendation is to update those powers of attorney to include new SLT members and the new title names.
Cool.
Happy to answer any questions.
Pretty mechanical. Thanks, Ella. Any questions of Ella?
It is mechanical. We have 5 at the moment. Is there any reason for 3 more? How do other councils get on? Do they have 2, 3 or 7, 8?
The reason why we need to include the new SLT members is that you'll see that the deed of, the power of attorney is for the Mayor and CEO to sign together, and if Gareth was to give the deputy CEO roles to Dylan, Lisa or Tina, we couldn't rely on our existing power of attorney. We couldn't rely on our existing power of attorney because it's limited to the original members.
Okay. All right, so I have a mover, please, for that. Moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Kingi. Thanks, Ella. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 5.7, receipt and review of draft statements of intent from council-controlled organisations. Sue.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. Today's item is for Council to officially receive the draft statement of intents from its council-controlled organisations, review and provide comment if required. This is a requirement under the Local Government Act 2002. Council officers have reviewed the draft statement of intents against the Act and were satisfied with the content. In addition, DGLT held a workshop with councillors at the end of March and there was no official feedback from this. The recommendation is that there is no official comment at this time. So I'll just open up to any questions or if you have any further comments or feedback.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Sue. Cool. Any comments or queries? How often do we do this? Every year?
Annually.
Annually,
yes.
Cool.
Yep.
So
Jim,
pretty straightforward again. Councillor
to deal with the first one, Waikato Mayoral Forum, governance work stream is currently in abeyance. What's actually happening there? Does anyone? It'll be page 11 of the agenda, page 8 of that document. What? This is the statement of intent.
Waikato Last, yeah. So the Mayoral Forum from time to time provides projects, or talks about projects that then the LAS may implement. At the moment there are none that the LAS are implementing on behalf of the Mayoral Forum. The projects that LAS are looking at are all around backroom efficiency, so things like IT improvements and things like that, as opposed to any politically initiated projects.
So they are the work streams that are being looked at the moment?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Sue? Okay, thank you, Sue. There's a suggested recommendation there, moved by Councillor Jolland, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks.
5.8, Cultural Precinct Project, approval of the master plan scope. We have Philip. Good afternoon.
Good
Philip.
afternoon, Your Worship, Councillors. Following on from the workshop we had on the 12th of April, we seek your approval today to continue with the master planning process, to engage suitably qualified and experienced master planners to begin the Cultural Precinct Project planning phase.
Okay. Any questions of Philip? Just keep on trucking. There's no. So you'll go out for expressions of interest? Is that correct?
Expressions of interest followed by a request for proposal.
Right.
Okay, Philip, maybe one of the things to talk about, I remember at the workshop there was a question about councillor involvement, and I know we've progressed that, so that might be something of interest.
So what we're proposing is we're going to go through an expressions of interest process. We're going to select the 3 or 4 most qualified people to undertake the work for us, and we're going to invite them to come and present to a council workshop where councillors will get to select and evaluate and score and pick the winner, if you like, the person that we'll work with through this process. So we'll leave the decision making for elected council members. So we'd shortlist the process and then bring those people to you. It would require probably a 1 hour presentation by 3 or 4 of them, so there'll be a day set aside. We're angling at the moment for the 5th of June as the day. It's a Tuesday council workshop that's already set aside. Need to talk to populate that to see if that's going to fit, but that's the process that we'd like to undertake. We think it would fit well with what was discussed at that workshop around how we would evaluate and select the master planners.
So normally that would be done by officers, so what we're trying to do here is give it back to you given the significance of this project.
Cool. Councillor Park?
I don't know if there's any precedence for this, or if it's, I mean, shoot me down in a ton of flames if you want to, but I appreciate the involvement. I think that's great, and it'd be good to have the technical experts' advice as well. But do we not need to perhaps look at some champions of different areas of our community that might represent a certain group, or are we starting to muddy waters and it's too early in the process to do that?
So Philip's been in discussions with a whole lot of different individuals. I'd say remembering that all this is about selecting the consultant to the team to work with us. Clearly that is a council job, and I'd say that's not something that you'd necessarily get any value from bringing externals in. But definitely one of the key things that you'll be looking at when you're receiving those presentations is how that group are proposing to work with the community, and are you happy with that consultation and involvement process. And it's actually, the way we've been talking, is it's not even about consultation, it's about giving those groups, bringing them into the fold and getting them as part of the design process. So that would be one of those key decision making points that you would have in terms of determining between consultant A and B.
Councillor Hickling.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just have probably me a little bit of concern on the extent of this precinct and the planning and wary of cost fluctuations and where we're leading ourselves down a path. I know we want to get the project right. I'm not concerned about, or I am concerned that we do get it right, but I'm just a little bit uncomfortable about the expanse of what we're going through at the moment.
You mean what the master planners deliver and tell us would be appropriate to spend?
Well, the area now that we're expanding to Riverside Park, right through to Ferry Road, right around the whole precinct, which I appreciate, but we started off with I think quite a defined area for a civic precinct with administration and arts and cultural centre. Now we in my opinion have broadened the scope, and yeah, I'm just uncomfortable with the size of the project at the moment.
You're remembering that a large part of it, which is included, is generally for connectivity. So the amphitheatre in Riverside Park and the North Domain, that whole area there, which is a large piece of real estate, acreage-wise, we're not looking to build on those, and that's not part of the scope what we're going to build there, but more the connectivity, and does it feed into the SIS plan around, does Redoubt Road fit well with us still? If we were to relocate, if we were going to provide access down to the boat harbour through Story Ave. So more from those angles rather than what could be built there, if that gives you a level of comfort.
We did, just to confirm, we did workshop the scope too?
We did,
yeah,
yes.
We certainly didn't talk about Riverside Park and the amphitheatre being included, as far as I was aware, but,
So I think if I can, just an example of why you'd want to do that would be, you've got Active Arts building sitting there. We'd want to be able to have the conversation with Active Arts about this new building that we're building. Is it appropriate for your activities to be part of that? And if that's the case, then how do you then link in time the North Domain over into the amphitheatre, which is part of that original plan? I totally agree with you, Councillor. One of the risks of this is that scope creeps so much that then the implementation never happens. I think a big part of that will be about that implementation plan that comes out. So it might be that year 1 through to 5 is these things, and year 8, 9, 10 are these things. So in my mind, it's about managing that expectation, because we're not going to be able to do it all in one go.
Yeah, I read that in the report, but I'm just voicing those concerns that, yeah, it's a risk, huge risk.
Councillor Boddy?
I fully support what Councillor Hickling is saying, and no disrespect to Mr King, I believe what he presented to us last Thursday week was exceptional. It was very, very clear, and thank you for sending those documents through. But the more I read it and more I look at the discussions of what we're doing, I said probably 2 months ago, I fully support not so much the cultural arts, but getting something done with our museum. I have some real concerns about what we're attempting to do with the civic centre as to what we're operating in town at the moment. And I keep thinking to myself, are we going the wrong way around? We're going to have a master plan presented to the people without knowing what those costs are. I just feel very, very uneasy. And what I thought we were originally going to do was have 3 places where we may not have a building for an office, etc., etc., etc. Now it's widened up so far, I'm having a lot of trouble coming to grips with it. And I don't really know the way forward. What we started off as a very simple thing, out of the old building into a new building, it's all happy days. It's gone further than that. Even the SIPS thing, the fact that I asked last Thursday week about the connection with Redoubt Street to the roundabout, no one seemed to know anything, but it's in the SIPS plan, hence the reason for the move in the tennis courts. Now if we made that road connect to the roundabout, do we have a bigger roundabout? There's a whole host of things we're not addressing, or we are addressing, but I don't know whether we're doing it the right way. I've got some real concerns where we're heading for 22,000 ratepayers.
Councillor Harvey?
Yes, I acknowledge what you're both saying, but I think unless we do it this way, we're not going to find out what's possible. We're not talking about giving anyone license to spend any money. We're just looking at the whole project and what can go where. I think unless we do it this way, we're not going to know what we can achieve. I think it's essential.
Through the Chair.
Councillor Williamson?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I hear what Councillor King and Councillor Body are saying, but and I'm sorry, Philip, I missed your workshop, April 12th. But thank you for just get the email showing what you did explain. I tend to support Councillor Harvey in terms of to do this once, do it right. Okay, and we're not committed to doing everything in here, but I think we need to have some idea of maybe cost. And there are obviously different funding models around how we can go about this. So. And we just have to be a little bit braver about it. I know I'm by nature a fairly conservative person, but I think we just have to get on with it and make decisions for the betterment of this community.
Councillor Park?
No, that's okay. I'd just like to support Councillor Harvey and Councillor Williamson. I mean, it's no secret that down behind the GLC was my first pick, but I'm completely open-minded about this project, and I think that we owe it to the future generations and our grandkids and great-grandkids to actually look at what this place could look like in the big picture of things, while being mindful that there are 2 other sites. It's just that, do we build an office building for the sake of building an office building, or do we get brave and look at all the possibilities that could happen with all the different funding streams that could perhaps help build this big project. So I just think we need, while keeping in mind the risks, and I totally appreciate Councillor Body and Hickling's opinions, I just think that we need to just be very open-minded, big picture, but absolutely be aware of those risks around letting it become too big.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if we look at what Phil put in, Mr. King put in his presentation, under risks, they're real. They're real, and we got to accept we're a small district trying to achieve, to some degree, things that I don't believe are possible. If I lived in Mokai or Tihoi or even Turangi, I wouldn't give a continental about what's happening up here because it doesn't affect me. So I believe we're doing it for a small cluster. Yeah, there's often said a coat of paint can go a long way. I'm wondering whether we get to use that coat of paint first without going to the extents that we are. But that's just my opinion.
Through the Chair. I couldn't disagree more, Councillor Body. It's unusual to disagree with you.
You're going to Australia tomorrow, aren't you? I think you leave now.
It does have influence on our district, because obviously support, Mokai, Turangi, Mangakino-Pouakani, how we deliver our services, and obviously mindful of also looking after Turangi and our district as well. But I think it's a very, very significant part of our community is to develop what we're doing here, and the outcomes will benefit the whole district, not just Taupo.
Just through the Chair, in this instance, I'm supportive of Councillor Harvey and Williamson and Park. Look, I think the whole point of this master plan is to give us some direction. What we can't do is ad hoc make decisions on different parts of the district and what we're doing. So I just see this very much as a roadmap and providing us with some direction, which may ultimately reinform some of our other plans and reserve management plans and other avenues. This isn't just about the civic centre at this stage, so I think we need to explore it and see where it goes. I mean, Barry and John's concerns are real, and what we need to be careful is that scope will make it such a big elephant that it won't move down the road. So I'm very much looking towards the business case, Mr. King, when we do that, and the long-term sustainability of what it is that we choose to do. But I think we need to have this go down this path.
Mr. Chairman, just to get on side with my fellow colleague here, I'm not voting against this. I'm expressing some concerns I've got, and I accept what Councillor Jolan is saying. Go through due process. I've just registered my concerns.
Oh, thank you, Worship. Look, for me, it's simply a matter of we have to build something, and I want to know what I want to know, but I also want to know what I don't want to know, and what's also out there. So lots of different options. So I need to see that, I need to feel it, I need to look at it, and I need to poke it and prod it. So something's got to lead you down that road, and if you're the answer, Mr. King, here we go. I wasn't being dirty, Mr. Red. Anyway, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
Your Worship, just to clarify my concerns, look, I fully support what we're trying to achieve here. It is going to be probably an icon if we can get that far. I'm just flagging those little concerns out there because we all know just how things can escalate into something that we didn't set out to do, and if it grows like an elephant, it's not going to make the grade. So let's keep the hat on the project, please, and we'll achieve it.
Thank you very much.
So through Mr. Chairman, just in terms of the background report there, I won't labour that this month, mainly because most of our time this month has been around the long-term plan, which councillors have been fully immersed with and involved with. So obviously that's involved a heck of a lot of consultation events and evenings, weekends for the staff and for yourself. So thank you very much to the councillors for coming out and supporting that process. As we said before, we've received a high number of submissions now, and a high number of people who want to be heard, so I see that as a positive thing. Obviously it does put a lot of commitment for us all going forward into the next couple of weeks, but this is the one opportunity every 3 years that the community has to be able to tell us what they think and what they want, so I think it is a positive thing. So I'm not going to go through the rest of the report, Mr. Chairman, and just happy to answer any questions, and then we'll give it to the team to step you through piece by piece.
Alan,
okay,
financials.
Thank you through the chair. Just endorsing what Gareth said, however, at the same time we've had more than just business as usual, because we've had the organisation reforecasting where they are going to be in this particular financial year. Fortunately, the picture that it paints is very similar to what we have painted in the previous couple of months of financial reporting. I think that the key thing is we've had a good year revenue-wise, especially in the areas of fees and charges, through the regulatory and through a number of other areas. So we're going to come out this particular year pretty much in line from a cash perspective where we thought we'd be, from a debt perspective, and
from a accounting treatment purpose, we will be well ahead of plan, but we know we have a lot of challenges going forward, and parts of that will be tackled during the deliberation process for the long-term plan. But as far as this particular financial year is concerned, we are getting through quite well. I know that the monthly Treasury Management Report is after the financials, but I'll just touch on it. I've been talking for a while about potential increase in interest rates. It's not always driven by New Zealand. It was actually 2013, the last time that the US Treasury bonds were greater than 3%. Interesting, yesterday they were 2.9766%. So we are starting to see that quantum movement, and predictions are that potentially could get up to about 3.5% in the next year, which will cause a shift into investment bonds once again. So it doesn't sound much, but from our investment portfolio and our treasury management, it's actually quite a positive step. But it's just taking a long time to get there, but that's how close it is now. So we're outperforming our budgets in the treasury management area, and I will stop at that stage and get the team to talk about each of the individual areas.
Thanks, Alan. Just a question, Alan?
Yeah, it's probably just a rounding thing. On page 70 with the operating expenditure, it says it's at 63.2, but when you add up those 4 different breakdown areas underneath, it's 63.3.
It's probably a rounding, yeah. So that was page. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Community services. Mr. Fox, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. So I will cover off the risk and regulatory and the civil defence components of this page. I'll start by giving Councillor Boddy an apology. At the last meeting he asked me for some information relating to infringement notices. I've been a bit tardy getting that to you, John, but I do have a figure for you now. So just in that space, as you can see, generally the financial activity is still strong in this area. Favourable variances still apply. There's one area where we talk about civil offence recoveries being behind by 9k. That may change relatively shortly, and I'm a bit loath to talk in front of Councillor Kingy given his fire hat, but we may be charging fees for a bit of accommodation and use of water tanker going forward, so we may actually change that a little bit, but generally pretty positive in that space. The team itself, the consensus regulatory team, are busy, as I say. You would have heard Tony Jerrison talk about working in partnership together and embedding parts of their team in our operations. Probably one of the areas is compliance that we're chatting to them about, so a really positive sort of initiative on their part and our part, I think, as well. So we're talking to the teams around that at the moment. So that's on page 73. We're also working with our contractor in the health and safety space in this area to make sure that we are all on board in terms of this activity and whoever's representing council in this space. On page 74, you'll see we had 3 requests that were actioned outside of time frame. So there's a number of areas that contribute to how we deliver a service, be it contractor, be it operational staff or after our service, etc. So we're looking at our processes just to tidy that up. Lisa and I are having a good look at that. Finally, Mr. Chairman, your Chief Executive has agreed that I can take some holidays next month, for which I'm eternally grateful. In my absence, Mr. Dale and Mr. McCaddy will be acting head of my area. They'll share that over the month of May. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thanks, Fox. Any questions, Brian?
Oh, sorry, one further thing. Sorry, John, that the number was 59 since January. infringement notices for in the animal control area, yeah, dogs.
Okay.
Just through the chair, more of a statement than anything, please leave the emergency management agenda behind when you go. And also, I just, with the increase in parking and vehicle infringements, I don't know how other councillors are getting on, but I've had like 3 in the last 3 weeks. So have I.
You're not the only one.
Great. Okay, water. Thanks, Kevin.
Afternoon all. Thanks for the reminder, Councillor Park. I've got one to pay as well. So in the water area, you'll see that we're getting well through the renewals. In particular, there's only really about $100,000 worth of work to do in the CBD, Tapamutu through to Spa Road area, and that will be finishing off there. The new capital projects, you'll see that we're forecast to get through the majority of that before the end of the year. Pretty much everything is committed. If it won't be spent this financial year, it will certainly be committed and well through. So majority of that works at Waitahanui, Uchuapa Reserve, are the 2 main ones. So if there's any more questions or any questions on water?
Oh, Councillor Buddy. To do with the water with Waitanui, the budget is shown to be now 4.077 million. When we first started this project, including the 1.9 from central government, 1.9 plus, I think we came out with about 2.9. Why are we getting? How's it got to the 4 million?
Through the chair, I thought that's been through previous papers and workshops.
It could have been. I just want the clarification.
It was, yeah.
It was due to?
It was due to all the extra costs in that area.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Okay, cool. Next one's transportation. So this is on page 85 to 87 on your diligent boards. I think pretty much the renewals, if you look at that, we're forecast to do a lot of that spend. The majority of that is in the streetlights. We are having problems with the streetlights, sourcing the streetlights, along with everyone else in New Zealand. Directive just come out of NCTA just yesterday that they're going to allow the funding to go a little bit longer because of this issue. Basically all the streetlights are coming out of China. We're not the only ones trying to take effect of the 85% funding. Instead of being 8 to 9 weeks to come out of there, they're taking 14 to 15 weeks. So that's the majority of the stuff in renewals. And the CapEx work, you guys have signed off last council meeting, some work on Poipi Road widening, Pariwaka footpath, which you would have seen if you've driven in that way. They've started some excavations and some minor improvements programs. Any questions on the transportation?
Councillor Park?
Just one with the on page, or it's diligent page 86, with the Hooker Falls footpath, we ended up having that fully funded from NZTA, did we not? So basically that's just an accounting thing that there shows.
I'll just ask Claire, I see you in the background. I know that the future ones have been. I just want to make sure that this one was. Yeah, yes, it was. Yeah.
All right. Mr. Chairman, just to do with transport, and I've brought this up in the past. I am a little bit concerned that our budgets for the 3 years we're ending up now had this $170,000 to do that particular footpath. Now, at the time, the words were used that there was submissions in the 2015 long-term plan. I went through the 400 and something submissions the other day, and I couldn't find anything. The only references to that particular footpath, or that particular as a footpath, was one submission to do with the Great Lake Walkway, and the other one was to do with the Lions Walk. Now, it concerns me that, and then in the paper, when a gentleman considered putting a footpath up to the Hilton, comments were made, we can do it in this long-term plan, and there were submissions in the last one to do with that footpath. Well, I asked Mrs. Jakes to try and get some information, which she kindly has done, and the letter I received this morning talks about page 39 and page 45 with the shared Whai Waka to Rainbow Point. There was a mission in the 2006 LTP, so it seemed like this has been around for some time. And more recently from Dennis, resident from Somerset Villages, the residents of the area wanting pedestrian access to the Rainbow Point shops. However, there's no specific correspondence from Somerset. When you look at what's in our minutes from last meeting, it talks about sufficient funds are available for the project in existing budget. Savings have been realised on the Hooker Falls footpath project, so they've been transferred to Whai Waka Rainbow Drive. Now my question is, how the hang can you have a budget for 170,000 and then suddenly something left over, so you transfer it to the other project and it goes to 409? I don't understand the way we do some of our finances in that regard. How can it change so much, particularly as it doesn't appear to have been asked for? And also the fact that if you look at some of the comments in the papers at the moment about footpaths, Marpa Road seems to be a big one. And 3 years ago I walked with the guy Cochrane in the electrical wheelchair and a staff member along our Lions walkway there, the first part to 2 Mile Bay. That's atrocious. I'm just a little bit concerned that this seems to be going on more than once, and what am I missing?
Just through the chair, clarify that the 170 was for stage 1 of that footpath project, was it not? Isn't the new amount is for stage 1 and 2? And just from the other side of the coin, on social media, the parents, and I have a child at Waipihi, the absolute delight from parents that children can, once this footpath is done, can get from Whai Waka and out that way to school safely on a path, it's worth its weight in gold.
So through the chair, I think the original 170, and Dennis and Claire can correct me if I'm wrong, was for a footpath, but when we went and did some extra investigation into the area, it needs a fair bit of retaining work and other things that boosted that price up. And this has been well traversed in the last meeting, councillor body, about the reasons why, and obviously we've had things from from Somerset and now from school children that this is a valued piece of infrastructure. Yeah.
And sorry, just to clarify as well, Kevin, isn't it? Do I have it right that in our draft LTP, which will be going into hearings for next week, there is an amount allocated every second year for the widening and replacing of the cobbles on the Lions Walk?
Yes, that'd be correct. Yeah.
Chairman, just come back. I think it was the last meeting. Mr. Lewis will correct me if I'm wrong, because I think I raised it with him about the additional costs. The point is, in the long-term plan 2015, we allowed a certain amount of money. That was to be done in the last 2 years. There's nothing for expenditure on that footpath for this year. Then suddenly we have a $409,000 footpath going, and that's the concerns that I've got. If I've missed something, I'll put my hand up and say I've missed something. But when we're trying to follow the expenditure trends of the council, it's very, very awkward if the figures keep changing. And I just brought one up that will be explained later by Mr. Strongman about a difference into why it's there.
All right. Community facilities.
There's really not much change from previous months in terms of this one. So again, the subsidies for the erosion work, venues ahead of budget, and cemeteries, museums. So as I say, not much change from last time.
Okay, thanks, Tina. Any questions, Janet? Yep, Councillor King.
Tina, just on page 80, well, it's 90 on diligent, but 84 on the agenda. Just we're in the community facility section, aren't we? Yeah. So with the current reserves management plan for the Turangi reserves going on hold, I've just got a question around that top line relating to the playground renewals and upgrades, and the comments in there that say that that's on hold until a further discussion occurs with Ngāti Turangi-Tongariro and so forth. What I'm interested in is that project around the playgrounds has been sort of sitting there for a while, and I understood that it was tied up in that process, but we've been able to approve a process for getting the temporary facilities onto a Turangi-Tongariro reserve. I'm just wondering, you know, why one project goes and one can't, and the reason given for this is that the reserve management plan hasn't been or wasn't completed yet. I'm just I guess asking the question, why is that?
So John whispered in my ear around the fact that I believe the improvements are still going to continue. Is that right? Yeah. Next financial year.
Okay, so the 120 that's sitting in there will just roll
Will
over.
carry
okay.
forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wastewater.
Right, yep, wastewater. So a couple of things here. This is page 85 to 87 on your diligent. Renewals. What we've got there is Mangakino renewal. That's starting in the next couple of weeks. Gave a presentation out there to the community board, and there's not much of Mangakino that's not touched. It's probably 60% of the entire town. That's a $1.5 million job, and so that's all been committed. We may not get through all of it in this financial year, but the contractors will be working non-stop from once they get on site. The CapEx part is a little bit of Kinloch flood protection work is starting. Kinloch effluent tank will also be mostly built by the end of the year, and then Whakaaro will not be expected to be built before June or July. So rest assured that we'll be getting through the majority of that work. If it's not right on the end of this financial year, it'll certainly be towards the start of the next one, and the money will be committed. And I suppose I should touch on the work that has been done in the operational side in particular. Mr. Green put it in the front end of his meeting, of the performance report. But we've also sat down with Broad Spectrum and had a discussion with them about the ducts going through our pipes. They are very apologetic about that. They are willing to pay for all the repairs to our pipe and to get theirs repaired. They are also happy to sit with Downers and look at the first few repairs that Downers will do on their behalf. And once they're used to the process that Broad Spectrum want, we'll get Downers to fix all of those problems as they are on site fixing any faults that we find. So it's more efficient, and also the residents will only have one hole rather than several holes. So we're thankful for that. And with Downers also doing some extra work in this space, they've sent down the head of water to had a couple of day sessions with us, looking at our operation here, bringing in the best things from Tauranga and other places where they've got operational improvements, and also they're sending down some GIS people to help out some of the schedule planning and of some of the sequencing that we need to do once we get this onto a regular regime of our cleaning and jetting and SL ratting everywhere. So we are working hard in that space. I did have a question from Councillor Body, and it's to do with page, I'll just find it, page 87. And he's astutely found that the figure there in the project budget to 3618 is 460,000. That has come down from a few other figures that were in there, 550 and 510 over previous reports, 560 and 510 over previous reports. What that is, it's the way that we operationalise the work on this particular project. Some of it's in two teams, and so that money's been transferred across to another team to do the same type of work. It's just that we've chosen to do it like that. What we will be doing, we'll have a chat to our finance team to make sure that we report that continuously as one project. You don't need to know how we operationalise it, and so we'll move forward on that.
You can see the difficulty I've been having, so thanks for that, Kim.
That's right. Thank you.
Councillor Williamson?
Yeah, through the chair. Kevin, with the sales of haulage above plan by $300,000, is that because the timing or extraordinary or the weather, or seems?
It's probably all of the above, but it's just demand. you know, people at certain times and other areas have run out, they tend to tap us on the shoulder.
What you'll always find in that area is we have good year, bad year, good year, bad year, so that's a continual thing over the time.
Okay, solid waste.
Right, solid waste. Tracking well through all of that. I didn't need to get to that one, it always is.
Yep, stop. Councillor Park?
Just through the chair, just in regards to solid waste, and this is an operational issue and the contract's already been awarded, but the service delivery of rubbish collection and recycling over our high season was sort of not as the level of service that we're used to, and I know that we're busy and whatnot, but when you look at sort of the landfill tonnage and everything like that, I mean, it's a consistent pattern over that high period, so can we be assured that the contractor will have it all sorted for our next high peak?
So through the chair, I think Mr. Greens was pretty hot on this over the Christmas period. We sat down with the contractors and we've assured them that there should be no surprises because that volume is increasing, and that they'll do the best that they can do. They were just a little bit caught by surprise, and what we will be doing is they'll be reallocating staff from Hamilton and other offices down to here, where we get busier at that time, and Hamilton's and the like get less busy. Yeah.
It certainly was unacceptable this year. We made that very clear. That our expectation is that that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I suppose the only positive out of it was that people are definitely making a concerted effort with their recycling. So.
Stormwater.
Okay. Pretty much I'll just take that as read, really. I think everything's pretty much online. There's a stormwater improvement device which accounts for over 50% of the spend, which is commencing in the next couple of weeks. And we've got Panoa Road, which is an extra $200,000, which is starting up soon.
Okay. Democracy and planning.
So nothing in terms of the budget, all running on track there. Projects, there shouldn't be anything there that that you haven't already been updated on in terms of where they're at.
Okay, thanks, Tina.
Chairman, could I just ask the question in regards to the Turangi Reserve Management Plan?
Yep.
This is going on and on and on. When's it going to be sorted?
Shall I get my piece of string out?
It'll be long retired before it's done.
Investments. Alan, did you touch on that earlier, or? Yeah.
Yes, nothing additional to add. As you can see, that's one of the positive revenue streams that we're experiencing this financial year.
Thank you. Economic development.
Final thing, so just some quick updates. The Ironman bid has gone into the US now. We're pretty pleased with how that's looking. We're waiting for feedback from major events funding for that as well. So Steve's waiting at the end of the phone on that one. Can I just thank you for all your support yesterday with the Chinese delegation? I think that was, and I know you were rushing on the plane, Mayor David, but I think there was good value in that. It's always a long game, I guess, but I think they really appreciated the attention that was given to them yesterday, so thank you. Yeah, just quick thanks to Sue, because she puts in a number of hours to do this
Sue
stuff.
down the back there. Sue, is that Sue? Yeah, see? Yeah, yeah. So just like to endorse that. Wonderful evening. And as you say, you never know where it is, but you know, where we're leading to. But there was a real opportunity for any local manufacturers or makers of products or whatever to connect last night. So. At zero cost to connect. Yeah, so they hosted us, which was wonderful. So thank you, Sue, and to your team and John. All right, where are we going? Treasury management, have we done that, Alan? Yep. Lovely, is that it? All right. So we have a mover, please, for the Chief Executive's report. Thank you very much, Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Right. 5.10. Council submission to Waikato Regional Council. Nick.
Afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. I'll just step into Hadley's shoes here. The draft submission went through you all by email in advance of it being lodged with TDC, with WRC. This is simply an endorsement process of that submission.
Thank you very much, Nick. Do we have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Body. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I thought you were nodding.
There was a half-hour meeting, was there not, with the regional council on this particular submission? Is that right?
Yes, I believe they came and presented to councillors.
Yeah, I didn't attend that, and I can't remember getting them through by email because I get so many of them. I will be opposing it because I'm not prepared to have this district's funding for a theatre in the Hamilton district. That's just not on.
Did we get an indicative price of that?
So it's so yes, it's 50 cents per year. Per raper. So
And do we get special tickets?
no, we don't get special tickets. So the regional council, to clarify, the chairman and Kathy White presented to you, and then you had a subsequent workshop where you went through the submission, and this submission attempts to reflect that discussion.
Cool.
That's the thing that winds me up a little bit. It's only 50 cents, it's only $1, it's only a cup of coffee.
Well, it's not even a cup of, it's a milk, probably, Fonterra milk and coffee. Anyway, okay, so thank you, Nick. I have a mover, please. Councillor Hickling, seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Councillor Body recording against. Thank you. 5.11, adoption of dangerous and unsanitary buildings policy. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we went out and consulted on the draft dangerous and unsanitary building policy. We didn't receive any submissions, so seeking to revoke the existing policy that we had and then adopt the draft policy.
Cool. Any questions? All straightforward. Cool. Okay, could I have a mover, please, for that policy? Moved by Councillor Jolland, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Lovely. Right. Draft bylaws 5.12. Oh, Aidan. Good afternoon, Aidan.
Good afternoon. So we're seeking the...
You've been, sorry, Aidan, are you fairly new, obviously?
Oh, I'm fairly new, yep, couple months in.
So nice to meet you, Aidan.
Nice to meet you.
Have you been in front of council before?
At a workshop.
Workshop, okay.
Watch you in
cool.
action.
Yeah.
So
right, sorry, Aidan.
We're seeking that you adopt the draft statement of proposal, which is the consultation document, and the draft bylaw for consultation. So we talked through, at a workshop last month, we talked through the new speed management guidance that's available. We identified that there was some sort of low-hanging fruit that we recommend a change quite immediately, and that's what these proposals are, and they're all consistent there. There's one new one that I'll talk about, and otherwise later on in 2019 we'll be doing a sort of speed management plan, looking at other areas that are not so simple, and where other measures may be needed to make changes and make them safer. So the proposed changes are in Mangakino, reducing Lake Road and Rangatira Drive from 100 to 80. In Kinloch, reducing Kinloch Road from 70 to 60 for the first 500 metres, and then 50. In Acacia Bay, reducing the speed limit on the Acacia Bay Straight from 100 to 80 and extending the 50k sections on either end, and also reducing Wakeman Road from 70 to 50.
Acacia Bay one, the 70, 100k sign's 30 metres from Jarden Mile. How far along that is that 50k going to be retained? It's hard to work it out the exact place on the map.
The 50k section goes just beyond Jarden Mile.
But how far on past Jarden Mile?
Do we have There was,
if you want to carry on, I'll have a look for it and let you
okay. Yeah, the maps are not particularly clear, but there are minimum guidelines on how far it must be. We'll check that. In Taupo North, reducing the start of Puhepa Road from 100 to 80, Waireki Drive from 100 to 80, and from 80 to 50 on the Control Gates Hill. Reducing the speed limits on Hooker Falls Road, Kirito Road and side roads from 80 to 50 or 60. And there's one new one that we didn't talk about at the workshop, and that's Rapids Road, reducing that one from 100 to 80. In particular, there's been suggestions from the Equestrian Centre. There's a lot of tourists around there, and there's also a lot of horse floats. So they've asked for that one as well. In Taupo and Lake Terrace, beyond Rainbow Point, changing it from 100 to 80, and making the 50 and 70 holiday section a permanent 50. We've got reducing Centennial Drive from 100 to 60 past Allan Delaney Park, and Tahara Road from the 70 section down to 50. Napier Road, 50 to 80 at the bottom, and from 100 to 80 above the Brett's. And in line with that, we'll be chasing Kittle Drive from 100 to 80, from 80 to 50, and Crown Road from 100 to 80. And the last one is in Western Bays, the start of Amori Road and Pakawa Road from 100 to 80, and getting rid of the 70 section on Amori Road, keeping the whole section at 50. So that's largely consistent with the workshop we had with you last month. We've also discussed the proposals with our key agents, our key partners, the police, and the NZTA. NZTA indicated sort of general level of support, but they'll have a greater look at it when we consult. And the police raised that they think Hooker Falls Road, the Control Gates Hill and Kirito Road might work better as 60 rather than 50, just given the nature of those roads and the rural outlook. So that's something we can consider. So implementation dates, if the plan is to implement on the 1st of December, the speed limit changes and the signs, and the Control Gates Hill would be later, 1st of May, given there's some supporting works that needs to happen then.
Mr. Chairman, just on those dates, why is the Control Gate Hill going to be left till December 19 when that's a real crunch issue, and why go from 50 to 60? That hardly changes anything. And the delay, that should be coming in almost tomorrow.
Yes, so the proposal for the bottom of Control Gates Hill is reducing it from 80 to 50. It's police who've sought that should maybe be 60. There's passing lanes and there's a number of works there that we think would need to take effect to actually make it be effective. And there's also the threshold treatments and stuff. So there's a bit of work that needs to be doing. It's consistent with the long-term plan and the works that are proposed at the intersection there.
The issue of concern is coming down the hill, not going up.
I guess that's equally the case. So you can't just change a speed disc and expect people to slow down. You've heard us say that over and over and over again. And part of that is about width of road and about the environment that's there. So to enable the speeds to change, you need to undertake work, and part of that work can't occur until you go through your northern outlet work that you're doing. So we asked this very question yesterday internally, and it is the quickest that we can get that piece of road to actually change the speed rather than just changing the speed disc, which simply won't work.
So it's road layouts, not just putting signs up. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Park.
Just going back to the Road Safety Summit in Wellington again, it was voiced to the Minister, well, the Associate Minister, Julian Genter, that councils, both TAs and regionally around the country are really unhappy with how long it takes to change speed limit bylaws on local and regional roads. So hopefully we'll see some changes in that space. So it's actually it's a bureaucratic process from the top.
Councillor Harvey.
Just regarding that, so when are the lights due to be put in place at Norman Smith?
Well, you'll be making those decisions as part of your long-term plan deliberations. At this stage, they're proposed to be year one of the long-term plan, so next year. But again, you'll be making those decisions. As you're aware, there's a lot of submissions around what that solution should be and timing and things like that.
And the Kittle Drive, Napier Road, is the priority going to be changed once the speed limit is reduced? When is that? Same thing?
So documentation is being put together for that at the moment.
So are we saying it's going to be done at the same time?
Yeah, that would make sense, yes.
Right, thank you.
Sorry, for Councillor Body's question there, was the 50k zone is going to go up to Parnoa Road. Don't ask me how many metres that is, but it's to Parnoa Road.
As long as it's a hell of a lot more than 30.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, we're moving the Omori Kirito speed limit going from the main highway down into it. I was under the impression we were going to do the Pukava one as well. That was all, because it's a even tighter road, and I thought we were going to do that one too.
The proposal is to change Pukava Road from 100 to 80 as well. Yep.
Cool. Lovely. All good. We'll no doubt hear back from in due course from
Thank you.
the community. Okay, so just a recommendation that goes out for public consultation, moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Kingi. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 5.13, establish a working group for the state of Turangi waste water discharge. Good afternoon.
Kia ora, sir. Ladies and gents, just taking on from the workshop that was held at the end of last month, this is the steering group in conjunction with Ngāti Turangi Tukua around the consent and the work for our Turangi wastewater plant. So I'm looking for direction from Council to establish the working group at a governance level and the appointment of a councillor alongside 2 senior council representatives, and likewise within the terms of reference that was included as an appendix for remuneration of members of that committee per our standard remuneration of directors policy.
Sorry, I probably used up all my talking chips today, but just like I can see the merit in having this working party going forward. In regards to the 2 senior council representatives, will that be at senior leadership team level, or will it be based on technical expertise?
In terms of the steering group, and I'll take direction from the sponsor for the project, which is Kevin. So in terms of the steering group level, it is looking at senior leadership. The project expertise would come in the working party, which is the next level down, where we have the experts that we need for the program.
Thank you. I'm not sure how everyone feels about this. I'm supportive of this approach, and I'd quite like to nominate Councillor John Williamson, perhaps as the council representative on this group. One, you're the environmental portfolio holder, but I also just think with the different sort of people involved, the Williamson mana might help.
With great reluctance, Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Boddy.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Taha? Okay. So.
Just a little bit of clarification on how long this working group will be up and running for.
So in terms of the, I think I heard a piece of string. No. Because it is based around the consent, and there are some agreements that have already been made with regional council, there is a time frame in place. So they are looking towards, I believe, 6 months in relation to certain pieces of work to fulfil that consent requirements. But at the moment, and Gemma's at the back there, she might have something to say. It is stipulated time frames.
So through the chair, it would be ambitious 6 months, and that's what we're aiming for. But that may extend out to 9 or 12 months.
Fix it up while you're here. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. There's the resolution.
Ka
Thank you very much. So suggested recommendation there. That Councillor and added part 2, part 2, Councillor Jonathan Williamson and 2 senior council representatives. And you get $100 less tax. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Right. Changes to delegation. Good luck with that. Lovely biscuit, thanks.
So remember at our last council meeting, you asked for this to lie on the table so that we could have a workshop just to go through some of the reasoning behind this, and really just bringing it back for your consideration and potential change to that first resolution. So we have got draft one based on the discussions that we had at the council workshop.
That's it, yeah.
In terms of the 500,000. So Chief Executive may enter into any contract and commit council expenditure up to 500,000 plus GST in relation to that contract. Yeah.
Jim, could I just, Mrs. Jakes, what's the levels of other councils of a similar size or even bigger?
They're all different. There's no set levels, so it's the level of comfort I think that elected members give to the CEO. So some are up to $1 million. I think Councillor Parks made some comment about that previously. So there is a variety of delegations.
So through the chair, sorry.
I've asked around some of my colleagues, and it goes from unlimited, so long as it's within the plan, the long-term plan, right down to 0 delegation, and everything has to come back. So there's an absolute, the broad spectrum. The average, if you put it that way, would be somewhere around like what you're talking here, somewhere between 500 and $1 million would seem about the average.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is just following on from the other additional responsibility allowances that we have for other chairs of our committees, and the percentage is based on the one for Mangakino, which has got similar delegations. It's just in line with those previous responsibility payments to those committees.
Just through the chair, I wouldn't mind just quickly speaking to this one before we make a decision. As the chair of the Kinloch representative group, it's actually my preference that you don't put a recommendation up to the Rem Authority for an increase in payment for the chair, because I would decline it. I accept that a chair has increased responsibility, and I'm very aware of that as the Kinloch representative group chair, but I do hold the view that it's actually part of my service to the community, and I see myself as equal to other members. Plus, it would be consistent with the way I voted last year, which was against additional payments for chairs. So I'm asking you not to put this one up to the Rem Authority for an increase.
Just a question. Is the person who is chair of that committee always going to be a district councillor, or at times will it not be?
Most of the representative group ones will be a district councillor who is the chairman. It's not necessarily set, but that is there.
Thank you.
So have we deferred this today, or delete it, or shelve it? What would we bring it up when the next triennium comes in with the new chairperson?
You can do. My suggestion is that this is around the position as opposed to the person, and so tomorrow or the next meeting, Councillor Jolins might not be the chair for whatever reason, and somebody else might be appointed. So this is more of for me, it's more of a process agenda.
So that's why, as officers, and with respect to Councillor Jollins, we didn't even go and speak to her before this item quite deliberately, and that this is about that position. So it is our suggestion that it goes through, that it does go to the Remuneration Authority. The councillor who happens to be the chair at the moment can, as she's just indicated, refuse to accept that payment, so nothing would change in terms of that, but it is set up there the same as those other representative groups, so that in the future that can change.
Through the chair.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes, I'm in a disagreeable mood today. So I don't, in principle, support. I respect Councillor Jolin's position. If she is going to decline it, that's a prerogative. But in principle, I do support remunerating the chairs of committees, for their added responsibilities. But so that would be still my recommendation, despite your protestation.
So you're wanting to move it?
Chair, just a point of clarification. You often see a wage increase or whatever you call it to a parliamentarian who says I don't want it, but you have to take it. Is that correct?
With the I'm not too sure. With the responsibility allowance, that might be different to the salary remuneration that you get, as opposed to an allowance.
Can that then be clarified, which may alter the picture? I've got to give Councillor Jolin some respect for saying she voted against it last time and not accepting this, but I want to be clear that whoever the councillor is, and this time it happens to be Councillor Jolins, can turn it down, i.e. it not goes through the system. So I wonder if that could be clarified and even tabled to the next meeting. Yep. Okay, thank you.
I actually feel that it is, as Tina said, it's the position we're talking about, not who is the chair. And I think the position of chair of the Kinloch group, that chair is going to have work to do, and additional work to do to anyone else on there. And so I feel that for the position, we should be giving this recognition of the extra work that will be taking place.
Councillor Park?
Just through the chair, when I actually looked at this agenda item, I didn't even think about who the person was. I thought it purely about a position of a standing committee of council, and I think that's consistency. We should at least get it gazetted. And if the current chair doesn't want to accept the additional payment, I mean, that's fine, but I just think we should future-proof.
Well,
you might win lotto and
clarify.
disappear, and we might need to reappoint.
Councillor Body's question was, does the chairperson have to take that remuneration, or?
And I'm not too sure in terms of the allowance whether they have to or not. I mean, the other thing potentially is that often people will donate that additional allowance in some way, so that although they receive it, it's donated. So that's another way to look at it, potentially.
I think it's our social plan.
Oh, no, look, I think it's simpler if I just decline it, but at the current setup that we have, is the deputy chair is a member of the KCA, so not a councillor. So maybe just park it, but I will be declining it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's the feeling of the committee? Do you want to still the resolution moved, but against?
Well, I would move it be parked, tabled.
Just.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Right, leave it lie. Okay, so we'll leave that lie.
Yep.
You haven't got. Yeah. So 5.16 council engagements, Tina.
Yep. So our engagements for May. And as you can see, it's a pretty busy month with the long-term plan deliberations in there. There's also some conferences, and there's another forum to add on to there for Sport New Zealand on the 18th of May. So it's an elected members forum in Wellington. And Councillor Park's been invited to attend that. This is the first one that they've done for elected members, and Sport New Zealand do supply a subsidy of $250 on travel, so that would be helpful.
Yeah, just through the chair, I only received the invitation at 9:08 a.m. this morning, thanks to Anyway, so Sports New Zealand do subsidise the travel, $250. Shivers. Yeah. It's the first ever forum specifically for elected members, and I just think in light of the Bowls RSA multi-hub, the district sort of strategy around our reserves and sporting grounds and everything coming up, that it would be worth attending, but I'm open to my colleagues' opinions on that. It's just one day, be down and back in a day. Yeah, absolutely. It just and then I won't speak any more on this agenda item. Appointments, I just as emergency management chair like to just endorse Mr. Wilcox to the emergency management committee in the space of a controller. Of course, he's not going to be up and running as a fully fledged controller immediately, but it is important to the emergency management committee that he is at that table from the very start. It has been signed off at a regional level, and look, hopefully through my colleagues, look forward to welcoming him as a member of the emergency management committee. And it is really important if we can get a decision today. We've got a meeting on the 7th of May.
Particularly with, through the chair, particularly with Burial King's departure, we're now currently just down to Mrs. Jakes, who's our only controller, so it does leave us vulnerable and a lot of pressure on Mrs. Jakes at the moment.
So we also have the conference Audit and Risk Best Practice in Christchurch or Palmerston. So if there's any councillors who'd like to go down to that. The 4th of May. 14th. LGNZ conference in Christchurch. So July the 15th to the 17th. Councillor Park. Um, 2 to 3 normally, plus, yeah. Yeah. 4. Mm-hmm. So we'll put you in there, your worship, so that you're covered in case you do go, and then we don't need to come back. Yes, that would probably be helpful. Yep. Yep. Of the Mayor or Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hickling, can vote on behalf. The Mayor or Deputy Mayor.
thank you, Your Worship. Just have a couple of verbal reports. Went to the Lakes Whai Action Group meeting last Thursday, and there was Mr. Peter Gately, I think, from sheep dairying around the Western Bays. Very interesting. And they sheep dairying, milking sheep. Yeah. And he's also a geneticist. Knows, but they're actually producing crosses of East Frisian and 2 other brands of breeds of sheep. So. And on Sunday went down to the boat harbour and on Earth Day. There was about 40, thanks to Shannon from District Council and 1 or 2 others, organised the litter pick-up along the lakefront around boat harbour. There was about 46 people turned up to that. So it was a good walk for me.
So bad now. Come to Australia and all that sort of thing. Right, any other? Thank you, John. Rosie.
Yes, just I was at the Freedom Camping Symposium last Thursday in Nelson, and once again it was very well attended, lots of further really good discussions. I've done a little bit of a brief overview if anyone would like to see it, but I think it's heading in the right direction with the Working Party, and there were some government ministers there sort of listening in for parts of it. So I think, you know, that was well worthwhile. I mean, obviously everyone has, each district have differing bylaws or no bylaws, and I think the main, thrust of the whole thing is to try and get some sort of consistency throughout the country in some way with using more apps like Campermate, which was absolutely fascinating as to movements of travellers, where they go, where they go from that place to that place. It's absolutely fascinating. So I think we could perhaps work on that a bit more. And yeah, I'll send this out anyway, but I think they're heading in the right direction. Well, actually, I did, and I do think they are working reasonably well. And probably a lot of places don't have bylaws for one reason or another, because of, collecting fines, infringements and things like that. So, but I think ours is probably working reasonably well, to be fair.
Some months ago I raised the question about the boat harbour. There's an area down there where they can park. Has that been clarified? So it's now on our map as a parking place for the Freedom Camper? That's the self-contained.
It's not identified as a parking area, but all of our roads they can park, and we don't identify them as parking areas. So we don't say that you can't, but we don't say that you can.
On Sunday I was at Little Acacia Bay with my grandchildren. There were 2 girls parked right back off the road, frying up a meal. So I went and had a chat to the 2 German girls who were doing no harm, but just frying up a feed. But they didn't realise that they couldn't stay there the night. They said they were going to Hooker Falls, so I suggested Reed's Farm. It was a wicked van. How do we let people know, for those sorts of travellers, what the rules are?
So we do through all of our websites, Campermate and whatnot, for non-self-contained vans. That is made clear that you can't camp anywhere other than Reed's Farm and the 2 sites in Mangakino. And then our staff and security company moves them on when we become aware of them.
You're safe out there because no one would have been going there, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
To add, sorry, one thing that's working well in some areas is they're putting in, for areas that you can park, they're putting in monitored pay-as-you-go toilets and shower facilities, and some areas are reporting that that's going really well. So that's an option to keep in mind.
Gosh, just through the chair, just further to the Road Safety Summit in Wellington, and thank you to my colleagues for letting me attend that. The Minister's letter in the Councillors' Weekly Update on Friday pretty much summarised everything, so I have nothing written for you, but if you want that, I can. There are just a few little changes. Is that one, we're on the right track by having a more of a holistic transportation strategy about roads and whatnot being carriers of people rather than being about cars, and integrating the cycling and walking strategy into that is really smart. The term a road toll is gone. It's now just going to be called deaths. Speed cameras will now be known as safety cameras. They're looking at alcohol locks on cars of a repeat offenders, across a blanket approach for speed limits around schools. We're also told to be brave, use treatments that work, and don't listen to the naysayers and the other 22,000 traffic engineers out there. So yeah, it was quite enlightening, really. Also on Friday the 13th, I went with Mr. Connon and Mr. Fox down to Awakuni to the Central Plateau Volcanic Advisory Group, which was a really informative day. And GNS have got some really fantastic new technology about how volcanoes actually look inside. It's just not sort of this big sort of lot of magma that shoots out one sort of spout. There's lots of different things, and they're going to be doing a long-term project based on the Tongariro National Park. So I think we're really fortunate that we're going to have that data and be able to see sort of where things are, the hotspots are and not, and why they do what they do, and it was really, really fascinating. So yeah.
Lovely. All right, thank you very much.
One more thing, I did mean to say thank you to Nick Carroll for assisting me with that presentation. In Nelson, it was really, really good and well received, so thank you, Nick.
Right. All right, can I have a mover, please? The members' report to be received, moved by Councillor John, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Councillor Kingi, everyone, and then we'll go into the confidential part. Yes, thank you.
Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atu whai o tātou arataki, ai, wheraiti me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, āmene.
Thank you very much.